Hi everyone, Jessica here from Paper Ink Stamp and welcome back to my channel. So in today's video we're going to be taking a look at Creative Stamping issue 98, and we've got this A4 stamp set called Fruity Fun, and we've also got this additional side bit of stamps from Hunky Dory for the love of stamps. It also comes with a book of A4 double-sided papers, so you can see these here, all kind of fruit themed, lots of different kinds of backgrounds. You've got sort of outlines of the fruit, you've got sort of collective fruit, block colours, lots of papers that's going to go really nicely with your stamps. So we've got some really lovely images in here. We've got some glasses and jars, the fruits, got sentiments, and we've got some really fun stamps that you can add sort of faces and arms and legs to as well, which is the ones we're going to be using in today's card. So let's take a look in the magazine itself. So once again, you've got lots of different kinds of examples, ink blending cocktails by Masking. Now we've got different shaped cards. We've got some images which are coloured. We've got some shaker cards in there as well. We've got some masculine makes, which is really great to be able to see how you can use your stamp sets for masculine and feminine cards. We've also then got creating really fun backgrounds. I love that watermelon background. That's really, really beautiful with those colours as well. Definitely makes me want to have some watermelon. But again, lots of different ways that you can use all of these stamps that come included in this set. So let's take a look at what comes included in next month's. We have got this stamp set by Sentimentally Yours. This is a bee-themed stamp set, and we do have a 6x6 stencil as well. That goes on sale on the 19th of August. But for now, let's get into creating today's card. So the first thing I'm going to do is actually create a background. So I've taken a piece of plain white cardstock here. I'm going to be stamping this with an acrylic block, and this is a new one from Marie Anne Designs. I wanted to just get one of these out, so I've got two of them, smaller one and a bigger one. I actually really liked using this rather than the square ones. I felt this was a lot easier to kind of use, so I'm excited to get the bigger one out as well, and I will be sharing a video sort of showing you the products that I got from Marie Designs as part of the Card Maker of the Year competition. But now back to my background. So I've taken this kind of half segment stamp, so this is going to stamp fully. You can create a whole piece of fruit. Here I'm just going to create a background with half the segment, but like I said, you could then match these up and create sort of a whole circular piece, but I'm just going to do the halves. So at the moment I'm just using two colours, but I do bring in a third as well. These are my Prism ink pads. So the colours that I'm using here, we've got apricot sorbet, Jersey cream, which is the yellow, and then I will bring in apple green as well, and that is going to add some sort of limes to this because I wanted to have it the colours kind of as separate as possible. So here I will bring in that green colour. So we've got it just to represent kind of limes, oranges and lemons. I've also got my Longthorn stamp chamois just off to the side. So this is damp. I leave this in an airtight container so it does stay damp, and how I've not bought one of these before, I don't know. This is really amazing. It cleans up the stamps really perfectly. Again, this was another freebie that came with the Longthorn bundle from the Card Maker of the Year contest. Again, I will be getting around to that video as well because I really want to use some of their products. But again, this was one of the things that I pulled out. And if you don't have something like a stamp chamois, you don't have to get this. You could find an alternative if you wanted to. But this is a really fantastic product. It's so great for cleaning off your stamps after you've used them. You can see mine is quite messy and inky, but none of that kind of transfers onto your stamped images. So what I'm doing here is just stamping a couple of these images in the colour that I want to use, and I'm literally just wiping that off onto the stamp chamois and then going back to one of the other colours. I don't want the colours to sort of mix together too much, but I want to make sure that I get kind of a nice even spread of those colours. So that's my background. I'm going to leave that to one side for the moment, and I'm actually going to work on a sentiment here. So I've taken one of my Hunky Dory alphabet set. So I think this was called Bold and Beautiful, I think it was. And I'm going to be making this a birthday card. So I'm going to be, of course, spelling out happy birthday. So I've taken another piece of cardstock. I should have used some watercolour cardstock here because I wanted to use my Prism brush markers to do a little bit of watercolouring because I find that really they only work with water on the watercolor card, so I can't get them to work on regular cards. But I didn't, this is just regular, so I end up bringing out my watercolors anyway. But what I'm doing here, and the idea is why I'm taping this down and kind of trying to do this in a line, is because I want to put the letters back in after I've die cut them, like I'm doing here, and I want to paint these in a rainbow order, and I want to make sure that I do follow the right pattern of the rainbow. So there's lots of other ways you could do this, maybe some easier ways, but you can see here, like I said, I've just popped them back into the piece of paper I've die cut them from, and this means I can just see them all together. So you can see that little bit of yellow there. Like I said, that's where I tried to use my brush markers to begin with, but like I said, it just turned the cardstock really horrible, so I just gave up on it, and like I said, I brought out my watercolour paints then. But again, for me, it was just easier to keep it in the piece that I die cut from, because I could see all of the letters. I don't have to kind of try and hold it down. It's all staying in place where I want it to be, and I can really kind of load this up with water and the colour. So what I wanted to do was create sort of like a watercolour. I wanted it to be darker at the bottom and fade to the top, so a bit of an ombre. It didn't necessarily work out, but I am really happy with the result. So I did this first layer, heat set it, and then went back in again to try and get some of those darker tones. You can see it in some of the letters, and others, yeah, you can't see it as much, but like I said, I'm really happy with how this looked, and it's a really simple way of adding kind of your own sentiments. If you don't have any alphabet dies, I would recommend having it. It's quite a good product to have in your stash, because then you can customize your cards to whatever you want. So you can see those off at the top corner there, so I'm just leaving those to sit. And I'm going to take some of these fruit images. This is from the Hunky Dory kind of section, so these are the much smaller images. And I'm going to be taking all of the fruit here. So I've got a piece of cardstock. So I believe this is my watercolour cardstock here. I'm going to pop this into the Mini Misty so I can stamp them all at the same time. So you can see they all kind of fit perfectly in there. So we've got the cherries, strawberry, pineapple, an orange, pear, grapes, and a banana. I'm going to be watercolouring these as well, but I do end up using my Memento ink, so I am going to heat emboss this with some clear embossing powder. So you've seen I just used my anti-static powder bag first. Inking these up, super juicy. Like I said in a previous video, definitely look at re-inking your ink pad if you need to, because the results I'm getting now is just so much better than what it ever was before. So you can see those have stamped out really beautifully, and I've just zoomed in here so you can kind of see the colouring. I am going to do something quite basic here. I am trying to get a little bit more colour in there. I'm trying to sort of think more about depth, and yeah, just trying to elevate kind of my watercolouring a little bit, but these are quite small images to use. I don't know if it'd be easier to kind of start off with much bigger, but I'm trying to add sort of a concentrated amount of colour to one portion, and then kind of just fade that out with the water, but definitely need some practice at this. And I'm trying to use two brushes here as well, so one brush is kind of designated to the colour, and the other brush is just for water. So I've watched a lot of the Debbie Hughes videos. She is by far the most amazing watercolour I've ever seen. She uses the Simon Says stamp products and just gives them a total different spin to what other creators do. She's so great at it. And again, just taking some tips, I think she had a video recently where she talked about not wasting your paints and using two brushes, so that's what I'm trying to do here. What I have done, so once these had dried off, I did this off camera because I wasn't really sure how it was going to come out, but I did kind of try to go back in and deepen the shadows and give some highlights and things, and I think it came out okay, but I don't know that it was sort of too significantly different. That's why I edited it out of this video, but like you can see, I'm just doing some really kind of basic colours here. But yeah, so for like the pineapple, I tried to bring in kind of browns and things as well for the edges and the shadows, but I didn't know that you could necessarily kind of see it too much. But again, once I've allowed these to dry, say after the second layer, I did then go ahead and fussy cut them. So I've got all of my elements here for the card, so I've got all of my little bits of fruit. I did then stamp the faces on these as well. They do have little arms and legs that you can add, but I just went with the faces. So the idea for this card is I wanted, of course, to have a birthday card, but I wanted to have these fruit kind of all around. I wanted it to be quite fun and quite a colourful birthday card. So what I'm doing is I sort of generally had a layout of what I wanted. I wanted the fruit to be kind of popping out from behind the letters here. So I'm just putting down the fruit first with some of my lawn fawn glue. Then I'm going to add some foam tape to my alphabet letters just to pop them up. So you can see I've got some thin strips here, and I'm just sort of placing these sort of in and around those fruit. Again, I kind of worked out how I wanted it to be to begin with, and then stuck my fruit down first. So the Y of happy I did put off to the side because I wanted to make it look like the orange had kind of bounced off the Y or fallen off the Y. It's, you know, tumbled and it's taken the Y with it. So I really wasn't careful with how I placed these, whether they were straight or in a direct line or anything like that. I wanted it again to be something a little bit fun. And I really loved them because that orange has got the shocked face, as if it has just kind of dropped down onto that Y and sort of fallen off again. I thought that was quite fun. But lots of different facial expressions. You can see that pineapple's got its tongue stuck out, the pear is winking, so you know, you can create something really, really fun with this. So once I had all of my letters and my fruit down, I thought I would just make it a little more interesting. I wanted to add something to the edges. So I used some of my Arctic Mist colour. So this is a light blue. And this kind of, because it didn't mix in with the colours of my background, obviously it's sat on top of it, but it kind of reminded me it was like a cocktail. I thought it just added something quite nice, and it does make this kind of pop from the white card base we're going to use. So it's nice just to kind of have a little bit of colour on the edge of the card, just to really help your eye kind of come into the main focal points, which of course is our fruit and our happy birthday. So I'm literally just going all the way around, giving it quite a light hand here, and I don't want it to go kind of too far into the card where it is going to go over any of the fruit or the letters here. So just really sticking and going around all 4 of those corners. So if you think your card needs something else, something like just going around the border with an ink can really make all the difference. But yeah, in real life, it just sort of reminds me of a cocktail, something with all the fruit in there. I think it looks really great. So then just to add a little bit more detail, so I added some white gel pen highlights. So I did this on all of the letters. You can see it on that Y and that orange. I wanted to make it again sort of look like it had moved. So I added just some black lines in there just to make it look like it kind of rolled and bounced and things like that. So the card I'm creating, of course, is a slimline card. So from what I had left over from my background, because my piece was a lot bigger than what I was going to be die cutting, I just cut a strip from that. So of course I spent all that time creating that background. I don't want that to go to waste. So I've just cut a strip and put it inside the card. And then I'm going to take one of the sentiments stamps from the stamp set and just pop that on the inside as well. So I'm not going to be propping this up on any foam tape, so I'm just taking that lawn fawn liquid glue again, going all around the edge of this sort of scalloped piece here, and then I'm just going to attach this to my card base. And I really love how this has come out. To finish it off, I'm just going to add some Nuvo drops. So I use Simply White, Rhubarb Crumble and Dandelion Yellow. So of course this is the yellow colour. I was recently, Kathy Zilski had posted a video where she was talking about jewel placement and like Nuvo drops placement, and I left her a comment on her video saying I really wish I could do that like you. You know, she was like the queen of placement and things, and she actually commented back and said, you know, you can do it, and that's, so I do try really hard. I know she has sort of the triangle and, you know, like the power of 3 kind of thing, so I've kind of tried to work that into how I put my jewels or sequins or really my Nuvo drops onto my cards, and practice does absolutely make perfect. But that is all I'm going to do for today's card. So it was a little bit involved. There was a few different things to do, but I really love how this comes together. I think it's super fun. Yeah, and just a really great overall stamp set. So this was using Creative Stampin' issue 98. So if you did like this video, please give it a thumbs up and leave me a comment down below. If you haven't subscribed to my channel already, please do so you don't miss out on any future videos. So that's it today. Thanks very much for watching and happy crafting.